Hello, BookTube. Got a little bit of mail for you today on a gorgeous Friday, starting with a periodical, the London Times Literary Supplement, the beloved TLS. Uh, I think this is great. I hesitate to recommend it just generally across the board because quite a few of the books that it picks to recommend can be on the abstruse side, the scholarly side. I wouldn't call the TLS for the general reader, although in the last 10 years, more and more concerted editorial efforts have been made to make it that. I still wouldn't call it that, but it's right up my alley. I try to be a general reader, but it's right up my alley. And this has the usual interesting letters and also a me wanty. There in every issue of the TLs at least once there's a me wanty. Here, the great historian Dermot McCullough reviews two books, and one of them is about Robert Cecil, Elizabeth's spy master. And it's called All His Spies. It's coming out from Allen Lane. It's 450 pages long. Don't know that it will ever get an American edition. I don't know. I miss once again Book Depository where I could just get a copy. But there are quite a few interesting letters this time around. No ongoing feuds at the moment. But I mentioned last time that Daniel Donahue reviews Heather O'Donoghue on writing about Beowulf. And someone wrote in from Surrey, which is more apropos than most people would realize, saying, Heather O'Donoghue may think that Beowulf is an 11th century poem drawing on Old Norse myth, as Daniel Donahue outlines in his review, but this does not fit the evidence. We know that the Beowulf manuscript is a copy because it is full of scribal errors, and the errors are exactly those that would be made by working from an archetype 3 centuries old. The scribes mistook 8th century cursive minuscule A, R, C, and D for 11th century square minuscule U, N, T, and O, and they use 8th century forms for names such as Ectho and Weltho, and they copy verses that would only scan if pronounced in 8th century English. Beowulf is dated by its paleography, not by its mythology. I love the TLS. What can I say? Also, there was a piece recently in the TLS about AI and its potential threats, and the writer of that piece was fairly blasé about AI, as I have largely been myself. I recognize that it's ubiquitous, but I am not yet alarmed by it, and despite every book in the world telling me that I should be. And a writer writes in to question that. Philip Ball asked the question, where does that leave us in relationship to AI's possible threats? And Sam Milne responds, someone wrote a letter responding, quote, the answer surely is clear enough if we consider the history of nuclear weapons development, out of the hands of the scientists and engineers and into the hands of the lawmakers, politicians, diplomats, and mediators, close quote. His answer is certainly succinct, but I fear it is far too idealistic. In whose hands was the bomb when Enola Gay flew over Hiroshima and released hell upon earth, resulting in the destruction of 3/4 of the city and 140,000 deaths? Scientists and engineers? I think not. Looking at more recent developments in nuclear warfare, what about tactical nuclear weapons and their use on the battlefield? The PBS News website tells us that they are less powerful and can have a yield as small as 1 kiloton. Oh well, that's all right then. It goes on to tell us, quote, unlike strategic weapons which have been subject to arms control agreements between Moscow and Washington, tactical weapons never have been limited by any such pacts, close quote. I think that Mr. Milne would have been wise to choose another analogy. Yeah, just a bit. And then finally, Craig Rain wrote a piece about E.M. Forster and took a swipe at Howard's End, widely considered Forster's greatest book. And someone from New York wrote in rather vigorously to complain about that. They not only defend Forster, but they take a pointed swipe at the original article. Craig Rain's remarks about Howard's End shed little light. He may not care for E.M. Forster's novel, but Forster never let a sentence escape his control like this one. And he quotes from Rain's piece, quote, these big ideas, the over-insistent, the parsonical editorializing, the agrarian thesis rather undermine Forster's own sense that Howard's End was his masterpiece, close quote. Which is a pretty hideous sentence, I have to admit. I feel sure that Rain's complaints have had no such posthumous effect on Forster's thinking. Rain ignores the fact that Forster created an entire cast of memorable characters, none of whom is likely to be confused with any others that I know of. That's what has made Howard's End one of the most cherishable works of English fiction. To which I say bravo. Good for you, sticking up for Howard's End like that. So that's the TLS. Plenty of other things in there. I kind of want that Derwin McCullough book. On the one hand, his last 3 books in American publishing, I think all for Viking, have sold in America. So maybe this one will get an American publication. That would be great. It's a very English subject. It's not religious. It's not universal. But I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll just have to go to Blackwell's. Is it Blackwell's? One of you recommended a UK bookstore that does not charge for overseas shipping. That has all the latest stuff. I think it was Blackwell's. I think I have them bookmarked somewhere. I might have to go to them for my book depository needs. But then we've got the mail. A thin package and a thin package in a box. So I'm really hoping that the box is a September finished copy. I'm really in the market for September finished copies. I have a whole shelf. It's crammed full of September books, but 2/3 of them are not finished copies. Oh, okay, all right. This is a finished copy of something that we have seen before. This is indeed a September finished copy. Great. This would have to go to a poetry guy. I believe I have a poetry guy now. This is Joy in Service of Rue Tagore, En Rue Tagore, by Paul Muldoon. Beautiful thing here. No talk on the back or anything like that. I might have already sent this out because I don't think I still have the advanced copy of this. That's just as well because I might want to review this myself. We'll see. I've got a while yet. This comes out on September 10th. Over the course of his 50-year career, good Lord, starting with New Weather, published in 1973 when he was 22 years old, Paul Muldoon has remained one of the most innovative and exciting poets writing in English. He is constantly toying with, heightening, wrong-footing our language in inventive poems that bring both delight and revelation. In his hands, the traditional forms and devices of English poetry are not inert formulas to be dutifully executed, but living things, sinuous and kicking. Well, I don't know really what any of that means, but I do love this poet. One of the few works of poets today that I love. So that's great to have a finished copy, especially such a lovely thing. Ordinarily, publishers just mess up. They fill this sort of crap with... Paul Muldoon has had so many accolades from critics that you could fill the back of this thing with them, and they didn't. They made it instead a rather lovely little thing. All right, so a slim volume of poetry. That's how we're starting off. Now we move on to the box. Another September finished copy? That would be great. That's what I want. I know what I really want this to be, but I haven't had any advance notice of the thing that I really want. So it's probably not that. There's a thing coming out that I really, really want. But okay, fantastic. Okay, this is a September finished copy. Boy, we got the long and the short of it here. This is the finished copy of the Letters of Seamus Heaney. Fantastic. Look at the size of that thing. Fantastic. Great. Glad to have this. These letters, expertly edited by Christopher Reid, offer another way into this Nobel Prize-winning poet's justly celebrated body of work. Here we see the poet attending to the personal and the professional, responding to fan notes and letters from his editors. Just as we may track the development of Heaney's indelible bog people poems, so too can we follow his unremitting struggle with what the Atlantic review of this book called the tyranny of stuff. Though stuff or no stuff, he did what he was here to do. I'll have to find that Atlantic review and tuck it in here. As Reid writes in his superb introduction, if my selection of letters has a principal theme, it is Heaney's obligation to duty. This is not to say that these letters are only inventories of wearying travails. Okay, thanks for that. That's great. That's good to know. Well, as I've already mentioned on this channel, I am deeply involved in this book, and I'm glad to shed the advanced copy and go on to this finished copy, which is far more durable. I will take the I'll just slip the dust jacket off for handling this thing hour to hour and hunker in on it. This is wonderful. Very glad to have the finished copy of this. Fantastic. This is coming out on September 10th. It will be $45 in America. And that is our mail haul. Something that is 800 pages and something that is barely 80 pages. So there you go. The long and the short of it here. I did get what I wanted. I got 2 September finished copies. More will probably be coming today as the week winds down. So I can hope that that September shelf continues to fill out with finished copies. A third of it is hardcovers, but I want it all to be. But anyway, there you go. 2 books that I am involved in. 2 books that I will. One I'm already reading, and the Paul Muldoon I did not read with the advanced copy, but now that I have the finished copy, I will dig right in. It'll take some time. Muldoon takes some time. He's well worth it, but he takes some time. His poems don't just unravel on their own. You have to work at them a bit. But anyway, there you go. That is the mail for today. Nice and quick. I will wrap this up for now. Get on with this absolutely gorgeous day. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.